Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today we're in the garage with the KRX and we are going to add a navigation system so we can travel a little bit better. So, in the past, I've done one of two things. First of all, I've looked at paper maps, which is not a bad thing because a lot of people don't know how to read them anymore. Or I've just, kind of roamed the trails with those maps. The next thing I've done is I have used my cell phone with my favorite GPS application. Now, your cell phone is great, but if you look at it, it's kind of small. So I would start my tracking so I could see where I went, where I was going, and I would set this in a cubby within the side-by-side, what's the Pioneer or the KRX, whatever it may be, and track myself. And it was great because I could save my loop and all this stuff, and this was a great ride or it wasn't a great ride, and I could see how to get back to camp. The problem is I always had to stop, zoom in, zoom out, because cell phones aren't the biggest screen. There's a couple other options out there. One of them being you buy a dedicated GPS system for your side-by-side or your vehicle, Jeep, whatever you want. The problem with that is they're pretty expensive. They usually start off at $500 and more, and that's not even for the biggest screens out there. Another option is to buy a vehicle with a built-in GPS system. I'm not a fan of that. Even in my own personal vehicles that I drive day to day, I don't like having a factory GPS system in there because they cost money to update. They seem like they're always out of date. I would rather have something that has, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, something like that, where I can use Google Maps, Apple Maps, whatever you choose to use, and you have live data, live traffic, and they update pretty regularly. So for the KRX, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our system. And I'm just going to add a tablet. Yep, just a regular old tablet. Now, tablets, I think, are the way of the future for adding a GPS system because they can do so much more. First of all, you need a GPS-enabled tablet. Now, don't worry if you don't have one and you want to use the existing tablets you have. You can go ahead, you can buy a Bluetooth dongle with a GPS tether, and it will do the same thing. My tablet is GPS enabled, or has cell service basically. In this case, I'm going to use a 9.7-inch Apple tablet, but you can use an Android tablet, whatever you want. But for my purpose, that's what we're going to use here. So what am I going to do to mount this? Well, first of all, this isn't the case I'm going to use. I'm going to use a nice weatherproof case, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do to mount it in the vehicle, and then we'll mount it. So let's go ahead, let's hop in the KRX, let's look around at different mounting options, and I'm going to show you where I'm going to mount mine. So when you're sitting in the KRX, you have different mounting options. Now, one of the things you could do is you could hang it up here from your roll bar on both sides with like a round mount and a roll bar mount. You could also come down here and you could put something like right here. So you really don't have to turn your head. I've also seen it where people will put them right there in the passenger side grab bar. The passenger can see what's going on also. But for me, I'm going to mount it right here. Now there's a couple of different options. The first option is you get like a blank plate, put it in there, and then you just bolt your case right here to the plate, maybe a round ball mount so you can, adjust for the glare, whatever. But that's not exactly what I'm going to do. What I did is I went out and I got a license plate bracket, if you notice there's a spring on there, from a 1968 to 70 Chevelle. And it's spring loaded. So now I have the option of putting it up and spring load it up, or I can go ahead and I can bolt it to the bottom and spring load it down. Now this will take a little bit of modification, but you know what? I think I'm gonna like it right here just fine. And then I don't lose my storage capacity here. So I can go ahead, flip it up or down, and I can still put my phone or whatnot in there. Even though I still have the storage compartment up here, we're gonna mount right there. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna pull this out. I've shown that in previous videos, but in case you've forgotten, there's 2 push pins there. There's 2 push pins there. And then there's 2 screws down there, and it should just pop right out. And there's 2 more push pins right there. Let's go ahead and get that out. So the center console is out, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my license plate bracket and we're going to mount it upwards like this. And if you look right here, there's plenty of room to put a plate up here. Now, to mount it, I'm going to use this springy bracket right here. But I got to modify it just a little bit. If you look, it stops right at that angle. So the camera's going to show that. And it doesn't let it go all the way. So I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to cut just this portion off right there to let this go all the way up. Before I can do that, I have to do something else. So I'm showing you, it's really stiff. So I'm going to take my screwdriver, come down, and just pop these springs off. Right, so we're about ready to cut. And as you can see, I got the springs off, and it doesn't open up to a full 90 degrees. So I still want to cut this off. But before I cut this off, I'm going to remove the spring system. It's not really a requirement, but I don't want to accidentally cut the spring. So we'll just take a punch right here, put it in. I'm just going to tap it out. And now I'll get a pair of pliers and just pull that out. Got the good old vamp pliers. There it goes. And just remember how this goes back in. So this will make my life a lot easier of cutting these tabs off. And then I can put this together without the spring to mock everything up on the KRX. So let's go ahead and get our eye protection on and cut this off. There we go. Not too bad. So I put the bar back in almost completely, but now if you look, it's fairly straight. It's got the center console, so I can mount it here. That on there, and when I pick it up, it'll come out at a full 90 degrees. So the next step is honestly how we're going to mount it. Well, I have some 1/8 inch flat stock here, and if you look, it's almost perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark the holes on here, drill the holes, and then I'm going to mount it with just some 1/4-20 bolts and nut certs. So let's go ahead, go over the drill press and get this drilled out. So I've gone ahead and I've actually already drilled the pilot holes. So I'm going to line up with a 3/8 inch drill bit. And I'm going to put just a little bit of cutting oil on here just to help it. Two. Let's go test fit it. So now we got our piece. Take this, line it up. It is perfect. The next thing to do is we're going to put our nut rivets in. So it's easiest just to put this in the vise. Come in here, it's just a little bit of play. So for these 1/4-20s, I use a 3/8 inch bit. And let's see, just watch it squeeze. Got to the point where it doesn't want to squeeze anymore without breaking something. So you just unscrew this. And there we go. So back at the workbench. So this is going to mount just above this. Now if you noticed, I put these back, and there's a reason. I will show you that. Still needed a washer. When we mount this, it'll go just like this. So the only thing that will be modified on the dash is just the 2 holes, and that will open up. Okay, so now it's time to mount this to the dash. Let's go ahead and get that over here and start looking at it. So here's the dash. So if we were to mount this like this plate, just like that, it sits on this lip. Now, I don't know if the camera's gonna show you, this lip isn't flat. It kind of sits down here and kind of goes up. So this, I need to sit back here. If you look, There's a flat edge there. You can see the gap right here on both sides. So I need to get a washer. Now this isn't going on the inside, it goes back here. So what I need to do is we're going to take this and figure out where we need it to where I get full range of motion and how far back it's going to sit, and I want it centered. So it's going to be something like that. Let's go ahead and get this marked. So the holes are drilled. You see it. This one I was a little off, so I had to go to a little bit bigger drill bit. That's a 1/4, and that is a 5/16. But let's go ahead and let's test fit this in there. So let me show you where I'm at with this. I went ahead and I modified it just a little bit. So I went back up to this plate in here, and I trimmed about a 1/16 inch off the front there. Now that was my own fault, so if you just mount your rivet nuts back a little farther, you don't have to do that. Also, I trimmed this down right here, and again, that's because I had it back probably 1/8 of an inch too far back. If I would have brought it up, it would have been fine. But here's what the inside is looking like. So, next step is this iPad cover. And there's some issues with this if you're not careful. So as you open this up, it's going to hit the top if it's too high up. So if you have this, and it's, let's say, try to do this. If I set it on the lip and I hit it, if you notice, the whole iPad cover is coming down. So what I've determined is on this bottom here, I need to go through and have these feet just hanging off. By doing that, it'll sit pretty flush to the bottom there above the switches. The next thing is, if we look at the side, you see there's a gap and an angle. So I want to fill that gap and I want to bring it out. This gap actually is helping it just a little bit. So I could cut this lip off. I don't want to do that. So what I ended up doing is I went to my random nuts and bolts. I found some 3/4 inch long coarse thread bolts with a nut. I also found some old spacers. They're nylon spacers. They're 3/16 of an inch. Now to go ahead and mount this, I'm just going to use a drill. I'm going to mark on here, drill the holes, and then put a washer on the top of this and just some thread locker on the bottom to hold this on. This will be permanently mounted on here, and then whenever I need my tablet, I can take it on and off, and it'll go inside with me at night to charge and whatnot, and I can put it on here, and that way it's less likely to get stolen. So I need to go ahead, I'm going to drill some holes through this. Let's drill some holes. All right, so this is still a little loose. Everything flips in, and there we go. So this is how it's gonna sit. Open up, lots of room, can get in there. So now for the fun part. I get to take this whole thing apart, which you'll get to watch me do it quickly. Clean up all this plastic. We have to reinstall this spring on these, because it's not a jam nut, lock nut, any of that stuff. I'm going to put some orange thread locker. That'll dry nicely and just snug them down a little bit. I don't want to crack this plastic. 3/4 inch seems to be the best. If you're wondering, this is an OtterBox, so I can put it this way. The key is that these screw heads are lower right here. The camera shows than this piece, the stand. So I can use it as a stand. Obviously, I'm not going to. And then worst case scenario, I ever want to disassemble this or do something else, I just take those two screws out up there and I can put some push pins in there and you'll never even know that I had modified this. So let's go ahead and let's disassemble. So one thing I want to do before I reassemble everything, I know I got to put the spring back in here, is if you look on there, those are sharp. I don't want to reach my hand under here and grab that. So I'll grab a quick file and I will file all those down, and then I will go ahead, put the spring back on here, and we will reassemble it, put this back in the Carex, and be done for the day. Whew, let me tell you what, these little springs are fires, but here we go. Not too bad. show you what it looks like up close. So there's everything mounted. Not too bad. From the front, up and down, and there's a side view. I mean, you'll never see that, but it's nicely spaced. The only thing I don't like with this mod is here. So the last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna put it back in the KRX, and I'll show you what the final product looks like. So the nice thing is when you go ahead and you open this up, you can see all the way in there from this view, and it clears my grab bar. Now I think I can pull the grab bar out one more click. Now obviously I can't push the grab bar in any farther because that won't open, but there's enough heft and downforce here that it's not coming off, and these Otter boxes are fairly tight. So pretty good install. Another nice thing is I'm using this for my navigation, tracking my stuff. I can also hook the Bluetooth to my helmet, like I said, and I can have, you know, just a small screen with my music or an incoming call, whatever I need, because this iPad is cell enabled. There it is. There's my GPS install with my tablet mounts. What I really like about this is it's a nice big screen. The only thing you really need to be careful is if you have the bigger tablets, bigger than about 10 inches, you may need to modify the mounting location just a little bit because of the grab bar. Either pull the grab bar farther out or possibly mount it higher up and space out the tablet a little bit so you can open it more. Now remember, I did modify that license plate bracket to Chevelle so that it opened up at least 180 degrees. So when it's installed, I get more clearance so I can see all the way in there. I don't have to duck my head down. It's a little bit more difficult, especially if you're wearing a helmet. But if you look, this is probably the only area that really bothers me right there. It's obviously not a watertight container, but I mean, I can't complain. I can open it all the way up, and there you go. I could paint those black if I really want to. I don't care. So, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do what you're gonna do. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time.